and welcome to the podcast that must not be named. I'm Melissa.
I'm Luke.
And we are here discussing chapter number 15 of Harry Potter and the Goblet of Fire, Beauxbatons and Durmstrang. This chapter was 20 pages long and is 2.72% of the book for your last episode of 2018.
The morning after hearing from Sirius, Harry sneaks up to the Owlery to send him a letter telling his godfather that he shouldn't come back because he had only imagined his scar had hurt. A few weeks pass, and in DA classes, Professor Moody places the Imperious Curse on all the students so they can learn how to ward it off. In doing so, makes them do some amazing feats. When it's Harry's turn, he feels euphoric, but a strange voice tells him not to follow orders, and is almost able to throw off the curse on the very first go. Very much to Moody's delight. Near the end of October, a note is posted informing the students that the delegations from Beauxbatons and Durmstrang will be arriving on the evening of October 30th. Ron and Hermione argue about whether Cedric Diggory is intelligent enough to be champion. She believes he is because he's a prefect, and Ron thinks she does because she thinks he's handsome. Hermione is insulted, saying she doesn't admire people for being handsome, and Ron retorts with a cough that strangely sounds like Lockhart! On the night of the 30th, the whole school gathers outside the entrance hall and witnesses as the delegation from Beauxbatons arrives in a great flying carriage and meet their large headmistress, Madame Maxime, and her very underdressed and shivering students. Soon, from the lake emerges a great ghostly ship, which the students from Durmstrang emerge from, being led by their headmaster, Professor Karkaroff, who was also followed by, much to Ron's enjoyment, Victor Krum.
All right, so Luke, we met some people. There were people.
A couple. There was a random 6th year that had a line, so, you know, gets credited, I guess.
Is it kind of like if you're in a movie and you're an extra, you get one pay, and then if you get a line, you get bumped up on the pay salary?
Absolutely.
Because like, ooh, I got a line.
And
then if you get a
line.
name, like that's the next step up.
Oh yeah, definitely. You gotta be a member of the guild.
Right, and then a first last name, that's like the next pay rate. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely.
That's funny.
We met in person, Madame Maxime. We had heard of her previously as we were running through the forest. And we also met Professor Karkaroff, the head of Durmstrang School.
Yeah, sounds good. We got to visit a new place. We got to go to the Owlery with all its owl droppings.
And rat skeletons.
Yeah, what a pleasant, lovely place. I wonder why we've never been there. Oh, wait. Not surprised. I'm good. I don't need to be there again.
I thought it was well described. I liked it.
Yes. Okay. Would you want to go there, though?
Sure. Why not?
All right. Well, all right. Okay. All right. Any magicabulary?
Yeah, there were a couple things. We had a spell called the switching spell. I don't think we've seen that before. It also seems like a very generic name for a spell compared to like everything else, but I'm sure the actual charm itself is, you know, the incantation for it is maybe a little fancier than switcheroo.
I wonder what you would use that for.
Well, they were changing hedgehogs into pincushions with it.
I know. I'm thinking of practical applications, though. Like
hiding things is the main thing I could think of. Like, hey, I have this thing, and I don't want people. And someone's looking for it, and I don't want them to find it. I'm going to switch it into something else real quick.
I just think about how I like take notes and in general in my job, how I like to, math teacher here, draw in colors. And so I think I'm a big fan of doing math in visual pictures because blah, blah, blah. And so I like to have lots of colors. So it's like switch purple, switch blue, switch red. So it wouldn't be that fancy. I would just like, it would save me on my plethora of markers and colored pens that I carry around with me everywhere I go. I would just have one. And then when that ink ran out, as I keep switching it to different colors, then that's really kind of it for my world, how it would apply.
We also had the mention of a cockatrice, which is a real fantastic fantasy animal, creature. We had the Hermione recommended titles for Hogwarts of History. She recommends a revised history of Hogwarts and also a highly biased and selective history of Hogwarts, which glosses over the nastier aspects of the school.
I love Hermione. It's just so funny. Like, you know, when you get yourself focused on a topic.
Right. Yeah.
Hey, guess what else we saw?
What else?
A flying house.
A flying house. Yeah. It's at least what they thought it was. It turned out to be more of a carriage, but yeah, I mean, house
Still, flying
size.
carriage.
Yeah.
And like a pirate ship that can go underwater.
Yeah, definitely a really cool thing there, I thought.
Modes of transportation.
Yeah.
Theme of book 4.
Which, specifically for this chapter, we have an illustration
I pulled it up.
of
Ooh.
the pirate ship.
Yeah, I know. So I'm in a new recording location. I have been relegated to my basement. And I forgot my book. So I ran. My daughter's room is there. I'm right next to her room. I hope she can hear me. Go to bed, Lorelai. But I ran in there and stole her book. She's like, "What are you doing?" Stealing your book. I'll give it back. So everybody remind me, if I haven't given Lorelai's book back, she won't be able to do the next episode. I should probably give it back.
So what do you think of this illustration?
It reminds me of Davy Jones
Mm-hmm.
in Pirates of the Caribbean, the second one with the boat that can come up out of the water. That's what I picture here.
Yeah.
Only without the pirate flags. Although apparently some sort of bubble of... Oh, is that like the night sky and a moon in the background? I don't know. I can't tell if it's like a bubble of water around it or it's supposed to be the night sky with a giant moon in the background.
I think it's supposed to be a moon. I think it's supposed to be a full moon. But yeah, I definitely get some Flying Dutchman vibes off this. And I think it's really cool looking. I like that it shows it, emerging from water, and like there's still, you can see the water pouring off the deck, over the railing and everything, and it's a good action shot. I like this one a lot.
Do you feel like it would spoil the surprise of the end of the chapter for anybody who pays attention to illustrations?
I don't think so. I mean, just knowing that the chapter title, going into it with the chapter title being Beaubaton and Durmstrang, and there's a ship, I don't think that gives anything away.
Okay.
It's more of a hook of how is
as
that going to fit?
When I was a first time reader, and just in general, I've said this before, I don't pay attention to illustrations. So it's highly likely that I didn't even notice.
Mm-hmm.
Or if I did notice, ship, moving on, and it was out of my brain because it wasn't in word form.
Yeah, fair.
Okay. Moving on. So, Luke, did you have any thoughts?
I did. I didn't have a ton of notes, but we did get the specific call out of the Hogwarts house's colors and mascots, which I don't think we've specifically had called out like this before. Can you remember?
That was my question. So, I think we may have gotten the colors before on Hogwarts, on Quidditch robes, in the past. I know we've known that Slytherin was green because of Quidditch. I'm almost positive last year when we played Cedric, we had yellow for Hufflepuff.
Yeah, so
the animals I'm not so sure about.
I think we have, actually, now that I'm thinking about it a little bit more. When Harry first gets his letter, it has the Hogwarts H crest, and it has the 4 animals on it. But it's now also not specifically called out at that point because Harry doesn't know. So this is, I think, the first time where it's completely blatant. Hey, reader, these are the mascots and colors. Let's be ultra clear about it.
Well, and that's the thing that I was going to ask. So that leads me to one of my thoughts, was not necessarily the banners with each of the houses, but the Hogwarts coat of arms.
Mm-hmm.
And it says lion, eagle, badger, and snake united around a large letter H.
Mm-hmm.
Have we ever been specifically told before this moment that the Hogwarts coat of arms were those things around the H?
Yeah, I think that's the reference that we have in book
from
1.
The letter?
On the letter itself.
Okay. Hold, please. Now, is this when he first sees it, when the first letter comes in?
I believe so. So it should be the beginning of the Letters from No One chapter. Make Harry get it.
Yes.
Harry picked it up and stared.
I believe it was here. Here it is. Harry saw a purple wax seal bearing a coat of arms, a lion, an eagle, a badger, and a snake surrounding a large letter H. Okay.
Yep. So then the other area that we can look in book 1 for the rest of it, I would think would be pretty clearly called out in chapter 17 when Dumbledore is awarding the points for the house colors to be specifically called out. Well, Slytherin's colors of green and silver. So it says Slytherin.
It was decked out in Slytherin's colors of green and silver to celebrate Slytherin's winning the House Cup for the 7th year in a row. A huge banner showing the Slytherin serpent covered the wall behind the high table. So Slytherin is mentioned. And I
really feel like the other ones, we would have known the yellow.
I think so too. For me, it was more the coat of arms being so specifically the animals entwined around the H.
Gotcha.
That was the one that seemed most likely to have been new. Like the H was there with the animals, but not that they were necessarily all wrapped around. But I mean, it did mention something to that effect, but maybe not that quite thought out.
I think even regardless, we do get a little bit more information. So the actual line here, I'll just read it so that the listeners can also see why we're dawdling on this. So it basically says, enormous silk banners hung from the walls, each of them representing a Hogwarts house. Red with a gold lion for Gryffindor, blue with a bronze eagle for Ravenclaw, yellow with a black badger for Hufflepuff, and green with a silver serpent for Slytherin. So the combination of all three items, the red and gold and lion, the blue and bronze and eagle, that's, I think, potentially new here. And we've definitely never, that I can remember, been blatantly told these are what they are. And so I think that's maybe why it jumped out so avidly to me on this read through.
Awesome. Yeah, I agree. Although it really bothers me that it's bronze with the blue. I would much rather have seen silver with the blue.
Yeah,
I know.
It's already been very clear green and silver, so they don't want to double up on those.
I know. And I'm glad it's not blue and gold, but
I will say Hufflepuffs are kind of getting the shaft a bit. I mean, they just get black badger. I mean, can't you just go with like obsidian or onyx? Like the rest of them are like metal, like precious metals.
Right.
Like at least make it a stone, like something that's black. Like
you know what? They don't care. They're just so nice and kind.
That's what it was. The other three were really snooty about it, and the Hufflepuffs were like, "That's fine." Like it, whatever.
Like there was a fight over the gold.
Because originally it was just yellow, and they were like, "No, it's going to have to be gold." And Slytherin, well, maybe Slytherin went first. It had to be silver.
But that's what I'm saying. Like, maybe Slytherin and Gryffindor are both like, well, we want gold. Because I could do gold with green. I could do gold with red. No, we're going to have gold. No, we're going to have gold. Well, fine. If you're going to have gold, we're going to have silver. And Ravenclaws are over there going, whoa, hey, silver looks good with blue. Let me show you all the data that proves it.
Right.
Right? And Hufflepuffs are like, I'm just happy to be here.
Hey, we're good. You guys
whatever
fight it
you
out.
Need. Would you like some cookies?
It is funny that it is specifically like the first place, second place, third place metal colors that are chosen as well. Gold, silver, and bronze. And
the
black.
participation trophy.
It's maybe a little too on the nose because I definitely preach house equality. All houses are strong and proud for their own reasons. And I just feel like there's a lot of inherent bias that you're like spoon-fed while you're reading these books to not care about Ravenclaw or Hufflepuff and to hate Slytherin. And the Gryffindor centrism of it, I think, can be problematic at times.
Yes.
But it's Harry's perspective, so it's fine, I guess.
He can't be there forever.
Right.
As much as I love Harry, and I do, it would be really hard to be at school with him in a different house.
I'm getting beeped at by my robot vacuum.
Apparently you did something wrong.
He's just whatever. My next thought is very aggressive Hermione with the spew promotion, I guess. Trying to promote her new society for elvish welfare. I don't know. I don't really like the way she's going about this. She's forcing people to do it. She's bullying people into participating. And I just don't think it's a really good way to get people to actually care about. I think she's only creating enemies out of it and people who aren't actually going to help.
I don't know if it's going all the way to the enemy part. I will say I like that Fred and George were just like straight up no, but they're not friends with her. They're just, we're not doing that, and that's going to take care of the not doing it. But I think this is a callback, this is Hermione, like at her base core level of not peopling very well.
I know, it's annoying.
It is. You can see book 1 Hermione in this. You can see that little girl who just expected everybody to do the right thing all the time and everybody was focused on learning, that it's very hard when Hermione gets something in her head. It's very hard for her to see other perspectives or even allow other people to not have made the leaps she's made. Well, I figured it out. So I'm just going to tell you this is how you need to be because I've already figured it out. And I think that's a skill that we've seen her grow in and fall back, right? 2 steps forward, 1 step back. And this is a step back because it's not a bad cause. She's doing it for all the right reasons. She just doesn't people well, and she's gonna falter, and then maybe she'll learn from it and find a new, more
tactful approach.
Yes, that's the word. Way of handling her passion.
Yeah, and I'm definitely not discounting her cause. I'm all for it. I absolutely. But it, like you're saying, just because she knows the answer doesn't mean other people can just... forcing people to believe something almost is never going to work. Like, you have to help them make the decision for themselves. You have to... You can't force this onto somebody. That's... I think she's seeing it not work. And she'll analyze it and reevaluate, I imagine. So... it's just, rough to read at times. It's like, chill, Hermione, like, relax a bit. Like, I get you're trying to push this thing. Settle down a bit. Like,
right. You're
only stressing yourself out. My only other real note here is Sirius ignoring Harry's recommendation to, like, his quick letter he sent back. Like, no, don't come back. Like, it's all cool. I probably imagined it, or it didn't happen. I feel great. And Sirius is like, well, I'm already back, so, like, don't, just don't worry about it. I just thought that was good.
It's such a grown-up response to a kid. Like, oh, no, I'm fine. Yeah, you're not fine. Just sit down over there and let the grown-ups talk. Like, I got this. It's okay.
Let me do my job.
Right. I'm supposed to be here, and you're 14. Chill out.
I also understand the ramifications here. You're not the only one that's figured this out. I know in your previous years at Hogwarts, that's been the case a lot of the times. Book 1, year 1 for you, nobody believed you until you went and had to do it yourself.
Right.
You didn't even try to ask for help in book 2.
And in book 3, even after you did the thing, nobody believed you. So, I mean, it makes sense. But I'm telling you, I'm here now. I got you. I'm okay.
Yeah, I just thought that was good adulting by Sirius.
Or at least good adult of, like, discounting the teenager. Like, okay, little boy.
Well, he took it under consideration. He listened to Harry's thoughts, but then just made the decision that was right. That was correct.
Exactly.
So what kind of notes did you have for this chapter?
Well, apparently on book 4, I'm on Peeves watch.
I know.
So I'd like to point out we had a Peeves sighting that one time when Harry was walking down the hall, Peeves tried to dump a large vase on his head. So just pointing out, he's there. Peeves is always around. And I feel like we've missed out on Peeves conversations throughout Harry's first 3 years, simply because, I mean, they're little things. It's a sentence here or there. Peeves did this. And then we move on. But the more in-depth I'm reading this, the more I really appreciate just how brilliant it is to have a character like Peeves. The snark and the annoyance and the everything's just not quite perfect, but it's perfectly Hogwarts-ness of him.
Yeah.
And it makes me miss him so much in all the movies. So part of my book 4 personal goal is to be on a Peeves watch. Okay. And we had a Peeves sighting of dumping a large vase on Harry's head.
I do agree with you that it does provide a certain level of castle chaos and charm aspect that, it's just
that I would never want to be around.
Right. It's just off center. Hogwarts seems, idyllic in so many ways, but then you have Peeves around who just kind of brings the whimsy back to it, the silliness, and
yes,
I can appreciate it
from afar.
Yes, many rooms away.
So something else I noticed is that Hedwig being back, man, she's got an attitude. She is not happy with Harry at the beginning of this chapter, rightfully so.
She shouldn't be.
And she lets him know. So do not mess with me, Harry.
You've been sitting here worried about how long it's going to take me to get back, and you treat me like crap right when I get back? Like, come on.
Right. And then do you notice, though, he totally pulls, like, the parenting trick of reverse psychology of, like, that's, you know what? If you're too tired, it's fine.
Mm-hmm.
I'll go get Pig. I'm sure Ron won't mind. You must be too tired. And she's all like, what? No, okay, now. Hold on, man.
Hold on.
I'm not happy with you. But you're not going to ask that guy. I can do it.
Yeah.
You're like, wait, bristling. What? No, you're supposed to understand that I'm mad at you, not replace me. A whole other set of issues there. They're very funny. I like those. I like Harry and Hedwig together. And I have another Hermione thought along with your, like, so we talked about Hermione in terms of spew, if you will. But do you notice that she was stuck between a rock and a hard place? Or in her case, following the rules and learning something new in Mad Eye's class with doing, having the Imperious curse placed upon them. She's like, wait, that's against the rules. And he's like, there's a door. It's cool.
I'm not going to force you to do it. You can leave.
Well, you can practice this with somebody who's not in a safe setting. It's fine. And she's like, you can literally see the cogs turning like, is this wrong? This feels wrong. This feels wrong. But I have to learn it and I need to learn. What do I do?
Mm-hmm.
Such a Hermione conundrum. It was a nice moment.
It was very well. It was, just a real quick 3-line thing that fully boiled down this inner dilemma she quickly found herself in. And I thought that was really, really fun and well written for sure. Yeah,
and it's really the line of Harry and Ron grinned at each other. They knew Hermione would rather eat Boo-Bo Tuberpus than miss such an important lesson.
Mm-hmm.
That's what it comes down to.
Yep, I liked it.
Yep. So speaking of Mad Eye, they were talking about on, like, after his class, it was like all the things that he was telling them about his life, right? And how paranoid he was. And Ron is saying to Harry, did you hear him tell Seamus what he did to that witch who shouted boo behind him on April Fool's Day? What happened to the witch? Is she okay? I'm a little worried. I would like to know what happened to the witch. Yeah, I get it. It was April Fool's Day. She shouted boo. It was a joke. But, like, what'd you do to her? I saw what you did to Malfoy with the ferret. And that wasn't even to you. Like,
and we heard about the dustbins.
Right. I feel like we need to put out like a missing persons or just like an inquiry. Is she okay?
It's a good question.
I'm a little worried. Missing witch since April, since 4/1/93 or something like that. Have you seen this witch? She's funny. On the side of like a pumpkin juice bottle.
That'd be a deep cut t-shirt to have.
Man, you'd have, like, it's one line in book 4. It's, there you go. That's the t-shirt. If you walk around, have you seen this witch missing since 4/1/92 or whatever?
Right.
That's my shirt. All right. So I had a lot of thoughts on the classes, and not so much on, like, the Durmstrang Beauxbaton arrivals, which is very like me. Let's be honest. I'm focusing on learning. Professor Trelawney. We got to go to all the classes. It was very fun.
There was a lot that happened. A lot of quick scenes.
Yes.
A chapter of a lot of small scenes.
So Professor Trelawney is so proud of Harry and Ron for, and I quote, unflinching acceptance of the horrors in store for them, right?
Yeah, it takes bravery right there.
Absolutely. How does she hold them accountable for their accuracy in their assignment? Does she notice that in juxtaposition to what they wrote, they actually seem perfectly fine?
Has she ever realized that with how many times she's predicted Harry's death and he's never died? I think she's oblivious to it.
I agree, which is very odd. And then do you notice that she assigns them to do the same thing the following month?
Mm-hmm.
Here's something that has always bothered me. I noticed that, didn't they predict their deaths at the end of last chapter when they did that assignment?
I think they predicted that they were going to lose a fight.
Okay, can we find that? Because I have a thought.
I think it's back to the old divination standby. Next Monday, I'm likely to develop a cough. Right. I'll be in danger of burns. Yeah, you will be, said Ron darkly. We're seeing the Scroots again on Monday. Okay, Tuesday I'll lose a treasured possession. Good one. Because of Mercury. Why don't you get stabbed in the back by someone you thought was a friend? Yeah, cool. Because Venus is in the 12th house. And on Wednesday, I think I'll come off worst in a fight. I I was going to have a fight. Okay, I'll lose a bet. Yeah, you'll be betting I win my fight. They continued to make predictions, which grew steadily more tragic for another hour.
And then later on, there's something about it. Looks like you'll be drowning
twice. Okay, so I guess that would be potentially fatal.
Yeah. Oh, here we go. So it says, I finished. And then they go on. And then, we've been working like house elves and Hermione gets all mad. Harry laid down his quill too, having just finished predicting his own death by decapitation.
There you go.
Okay, so here's my problem.
And Ron also threw in that he was going to get trampled by a hippogriff as well when he found out he was being
so
drowned twice.
Most likely, if their predictions were correct, which, given Trelawney's praise of them, she assumes they're going to be, the assignment that she gives now is do the next month. What's coming up next? Dude, they're both dead.
They're dead.
So shouldn't their best, honestly, their best answer for this is going to sound terrible. So day 1, still dead. Day 2, not alive. Day 3,
lacking life.
Right. No change. I hate to be so flippant with morbidity and your own mortality. I get that. But I'm pretty sure they could pull that off and be like, yeah, well, because this.
Didn't you already approved this.
Right.
So
that's what's going to happen.
Yeah.
Or the whole McGonagall from year 3, if you die, rest assured you need not turn it in. So it's well, I'm going to die. So can I just be good? Accepting of the fate you have foreseen for me for a year.
Yeah, no, that is really funny.
I feel like you could pull that once.
Well, she'd also start having probably potentially reasonable homework assignments. Or, I don't know. Right. I think the whole thing that we're supposed to take from it is Trelawney assuming that if these are the things that came out of the predictions, the star charts and all of this, and they're still writing them down, the honesty, they're not going to make this up. It's so terrible, they wouldn't make this up. So, maybe made mistakes, I guess.
Okay, so hey, you did it. You tried.
And I like how honest you were with what you thought you saw. You didn't again, she says unflinching acceptance of the horrors in store for them. I'm trying to justify it.
She's just a terrible teacher.
Yeah, that is the right answer.
Speaking of terrible teachers, I have a Snape thought.
Oh, okay.
Okay, although I don't really think he's terrible. You think he's terrible. I'm just trying to be on your good side. Really, I like Snape. Sorry. So we find out that Durmstrang and Beauxbaton are going to be visiting on Friday, the 30th of October.
Correct.
Sidebar, that puts Halloween on a Saturday again, but that's a different story. And that means that classes will end half an hour early, and Harry is so excited because, that means that Snape can't poison us like he was going to. Because he had strongly hinted that their antidote needed... Okay, makes sense, totally fine. But it never actually... I went and checked. That was the week before. They were very excited because he probably won't get to. But during the actual lesson, when the lessons ended, it never said if he got to poison kids or not.
That's true.
So did he? And I'm kind of disappointed for him that his lesson plan was interrupted because maybe this is a big lesson each year. Let's see how you did. Obviously, in a well-regulated and maintained safe environment, he's got the antidote probably that he can give if theirs doesn't work. But it's probably a big thing, and now it was ruined. And that, as a teacher, always bothers me when there are interruptions to my lesson plans.
Boo-hoo.
Anyway, Snape's the worst.
So this is 1993, correct?
Somewhere in there.
I believe so. So October 30th is the Saturday.
They're off a day.
Yeah, not bad.
There's been worse than we've seen.
There's been worse.
I like how what you focused on in my thought was the date and not anything about Snape. Good job.
92, the 30th was a Friday. Halloween was Saturday.
But that was year 2. I think this is 94.
I believe which
I think this is 94. This is October 94. Sorry, I just found a corkscrew on my basement floor, and I'm wondering why my kids needed the wine opener down here in the basement. Doesn't really make sense for my 5-year-old to have it, but hey, whatever.
Yes, book 1 starts in 91. Yeah. So I can never remember. So it's the one's place in the year matches the beginning of the school year for Harry's years as he goes. I always get it mixed up as to which way it goes.
I just do it based off of where I was in school at the time.
Good.
Because I'm old, like Harry is now.
So old.
It's okay.
Okay.
How often does Hermione tell the boys that you can't apparate inside the Hogwarts grounds? She seems very frustrated. She's like, how many times do I have to tell you? So I'm really curious. Is there a way to count how many times she says you can't apparate? Because I know we've heard it before, but is it really as often as she feels like it is?
Well, again, for her, once she's learned something, she doesn't forget things, and she knows it. So,
okay. Saying it 3 times is way too much for her.
Yeah.
I mean, it might be 50, but it could have been 3.
It could have been 3, and that is still way too many for her because she is unreasonable when people don't listen to her.
First of all, you should have read the book. You would know this too.
Right. Yeah. Shame on you guys for not reading this non-required book where you barely even read your own textbooks.
And even if you had read it, who's to say you would remember that one random piece of factual knowledge from it?
How are they friends?
I don't know.
Does she just feel obligated to keep them safe? Is
their very own babysitter?
She thinks she is. They'd be fine.
Yes.
They'd be fine without her. I don't
Would
mean
they?
that. Well,
I don't think they'd pass their classes as well.
I think they do just fine. They have her as a crutch and they use it.
I feel like they would be bare minimum students, whereas my guess is they'd be
just fine. They'd be doing just fine for what they care about.
Yeah, but what they care about versus what their potential is. I think she brings out a lot more of their potential than academically. I don't mean anything else. Academically, she probably brings them closer to what their potential is than if they didn't have her. But that's not to say that I think she's doing them huge favors by choosing to mother them without being asked.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm really not. I don't dislike Hermione at all. I think I'm just a little sour at her for her actions in this chapter. They're frustrating to me.
Okay, well, chill out. She's a kid. She's making a mistake. And she's making a mistake for the right reasons.
I know.
Okay, so back off, man.
No, I probably won't. Anyway.
Okay, speaking of getting annoyed with Hermione, did you notice Ron threw a little, in-your-face thing?
I did.
Mention of a Lockhart? It was nice.
There were a couple things that Ron did that the narrator kind of gave him credit for. I don't know if you noticed. Because there was that one where she basically says, I don't like people just because they're handsome when they're talking about Cedric Diggory. And Ron had a cough that sounded a lot like Lockhart. And then later on, whenever Hermione is kind of upset with Harry for lying to Sirius, and Ron's just drop it. And it basically, the narrator basically says, and for once, she listened to him.
Shockingly.
Right. I just kind of thought that was funny after the Lockhart comment.
That is funny. Hey, Luke.
Yeah.
I think it's time to get into some questions.
Let's hear them.
All right. Go for it. What do you got?
Oh, yeah. I'm doing questions.
Yeah, they're not my questions.
Yeah. All right. So I have some questions for you. Look at that.
Oh, hey, thanks. I'm so excited. Brand new information.
Does it seem early to be prepping specifically for the OWLs?
Let me follow up your question with a question. Are they specifically prepping for OWLs, or are they simply telling the students that they are prepping for OWLs to get the students to be a little more mindful of their studies?
Is it a little early to be using that motivation technique?
No.
I think so, because they're going to not really care about it.
I know they're not going to care about it, but the teachers care about it. So they think by doing this that they're going to help the kids care about it. I'm saying it makes total sense as a teacher to do that. I'm not saying that it'll change any of the students' behaviors or attitudes, but makes sense in teacher brain.
Okay. Would you feed your horses single malt whiskey?
I don't even feed myself single malt whiskey. So doubtful. And I believe isn't single malt whiskey an Irish thing? So the fact that it's a French school doing that, wouldn't it be bourbon or some other French alcohol?
So it's usually a single malt Scotch whiskey, is pretty typical. But it's just a style it's not specifically Irish, but they make it all over the world. America, UK, everywhere. But yeah, I mean, it seems like maybe brandy would make more sense, or cognac. You're muted.
Hey, look at that.
Yeah.
I didn't do that on purpose. I said, or wine or any other alcohol that's in any way related to,
How about just
you know,
not alcohol for your
continental
horses?
Europe.
How about just water for your horses? Like, alcohol's probably not very good for them.
Hey, I mean, like, where's the leap? Is it like, okay, so barley, so nope, I can't.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't think it's really advisable.
Maybe it's like what makes them fly,
I
like
was gonna
reindeer.
say, they are technically flying horses, so there is something magic about them, or magic was done to them, and that's a big ordeal, and they deserve to be drunk at this point.
As in, like, they maybe don't drink it all the time, but after a flight, drinks!
Yeah, drinks on Hagrid.
Okay.
Question 3. Were you surprised that Crumb was still in school?
Absolutely. The first time I read this, I was like, wait, what?
Like, we knew he was
How?
young.
I mean, like, I know he's young, but you're thinking like he just graduated from school. How does he have time to train for a profession, not just like a professional team, but the national team and still be in school? I feel like, does he miss school to go to meets or matches throughout the school year, the calendar? Do they only use him during the summer because he's that good? Why isn't he having a private tutor that goes with him to travel during?
I bet he does. For how famous he is, I feel like there would be special hoops that the school would jump through to get him a specific tutor.
Then why is he there?
Because he's still enrolled in.
But
in
why
the school.
isn't he at Hogwarts? Like, why isn't he off doing his teamy trainee stuff with his tutor? Why did they bring him here? Because they were like, he's the famous kid. He's got to do this, making him sit out of a year of Quidditch play.
Well, I mean, how much does the World Cup team play in between cups? Like,
Well, one would assume that maybe he's like on a Premier League team or something. Like a whole year of no training at all.
Yeah, I
because
don't know.
it's not even like there's Quidditch at Hogwarts that he can, go throw a ball around with or beep. I don't know. I was very surprised.
I was as well. I mean, we knew he was young, but like when he shows up here and is a student, it was like, holy cow. Like, okay, that was unexpected. I just like how subtle it was and just interesting choice to bring him in here.
And it was a good little chapter cliffhanger without it actually being a cliffhanger.
Yeah. It was like, whoa, that's information.
Crumb.
That's a
Wow.
thing.
Wait, what?
Question 4. Should a professor be using an unforgivable curse on students?
No.
I agree. It's one thing to learn about them. It's a different thing to start using them on the students I don't know. Like, I get it. And it seems like a valuable piece of experience that they're getting out of it, but not fourth years. Like, I feel like this
and
is
if they're
maybe
doing it to fourth years, is everybody else getting it?
Right.
Is it just the fourth years? What are they doing at the seventh years? Doesn't that seem like more of a seventh year kind of a thing?
It's sixth or seventh year for me.
The answer is no. Just no.
Mm-hmm.
I can teach about a lot of unforgivable things that happen in society without actually doing them to my students. Thank you very much.
It'd be like, I'm going to teach you guys about the looms of meth. And then you go ahead and this is a safe zone. So we're going to go and
make chemistry class.
No, that just doesn't really work.
Even Walter White didn't teach it in class. Come on now.
All right. Question 5. Which school's entrance was more impressive?
Okay. Beauxbatons.
Okay.
Because they were first.
Okay.
Because we had no idea what to expect when they came in. And then it was a flying housey carriagey thing with an overly large teacher, right? Like it was just very unexpected. Like, it was going to be something, you knew they were coming, but it's how are they coming? And never in a million years would I have pictured that. Now, having said that, I actually think the boat is cooler and I like that better, but they lost because they weren't prompt. Because by that point, when I had seen the flying carriage, I was like, okay. And so the boat was cool, but it wasn't quite so awe-inspiring because I was prepared for something else unusual.
You were primed for something similar.
Yes.
I can see that. I still think the boat was cooler, and I thought it was more impressive for to put like a real world logistical question on it. Like, Well, but is the lake landlocked? Like, how did they didn't like submarine over? You know what I mean? Like, it's just cool to like have that question of like, did they like apparate this whole boat into the bottom of the lake to emerge? Like,
is there some sort of flu powder that works through water bodies of water? Like,
there's a lot of cool stuff with that. To me, that's a lot more. We've seen flying things. Like it's cool, fine. I'm okay with it.
Yeah.
I don't know, the apparating boat that emerges like a submarine. I just thought that was really cool.
Yes. I mean, I agree with you. I like the boat better. Thinking back to when I first read it, the flying carriage was just so, I was going to say out of left field, but it might have come from the right. It just was so different than anything we had seen in this world. And the fact that that was something allowed was like, oh, there really could, because by this point we're year 4 in the series and everything we've learned new, we've seen flu powder. We saw apparating in the very first chapter. Like a lot of the stuff that we've learned new, time turner. Okay. That was cool. But a lot of it has existed. Mm-hmm. This was something very unusual.
Okay.
And the boat was unusualer, but I was ready for it.
Sure. That's fair.
That makes sense.
Yeah, I'm with you.
All right, so we have our chapter superlatives. Luke, what was your favorite line?
The next thing Harry felt was considerable pain. He had both jumped and tried to prevent himself from jumping. The result was that he smashed headlong into the desk, knocking it over, and by the feeling in his legs, fractured both his kneecaps. I like the imagery of, at the same time of trying to jump, trying to resist jumping. It's like this isn't what I want to do, but apparently I'm doing it. Like, I like the visual of it and how he just collapses into the desk. And like, that's gotta hurt. Like, he literally thinks he fractures his kneecaps. I don't know. Really comical, slapstick, funny, interesting line, I thought.
Yes, I agree.
What was your favorite line?
Okay, I'm going to be honest. I don't have a favorite line. I picked something that I liked. There was a lot of things that I liked, but nothing stood out as this was the best. Mm-hmm. I liked the one of yours. I liked a lot of McGonagall's one-liners. I liked the line of Hagrid saying, I'm going to pull a page out of Professor Moody's book and turn you into a ferret to try and get Malfoy to do stuff. I liked Ron giving the false cough with the Lockhart thing. Like, there was just a lot of things I liked, but nothing that stood out as like the best.
Mm-hmm.
But one that I liked was one of those many says this. And then Dumbledore called out from the back row where he stood with the other teachers. Aha! Unless I am very much mistaken, the delegation from Beauxbaton approaches. Where? Said many students eagerly, all looking in different directions. There! Yelled a 6-year pointing over the forest. Something large, much bigger than a broomstick, or indeed 100 broomsticks, was hurtling across the deep blue sky toward the castle, growing larger all the time. It's a dragon! Shrieked one of the first years, losing her head completely. Don't be stupid! It's a flying house! Said Dennis Creevy. And don't be stupid!
I think
it's a flying house.
Dennis's guess was closer, I think, is the thing that really wraps that up to me as well.
It was like almost there. And then the winged horses that were each the size of elephants. It was very impressive, but don't be stupid. It's a flying house.
Yeah, no, I'm with you. That's I like that line. Good win for Dennis. He needed one.
Yeah, because other than almost drowning, he hasn't done much. Who was your chapter MVP?
So similar to the difficulty you had in picking a favorite line, I couldn't really find a specific person that did enough to be a clear most valuable character in this chapter. There were too many mini scenes, there's so many micro scenes in this chapter. No one really stood out to me. So I'm going to do something a little bit unusual, and we've done it every once in a while, but I'm going to give it to Harry this chapter because I did think his ability to fight off the Imperius Curse was pretty impressive. And I don't know, I thought he made a couple good choices. He was kind of dumb in this chapter too, with the letter to Sirius, for sure, but no one else really stood out to me. But the effort and talent in Defense Against the Dark Arts, I think, is kind of what's carrying the day for me to award him the chapter MVP. How about you?
I like that choice. I went with an honorable mention for similar reasons in that nobody did anything outstanding. So I went with somebody who was the most snarky because I tend to relate to those people the best.
It's a good fallback reason.
That's just where I live. And I went with McGonagall for two reasons. The first was when she is explaining that the owls are coming and Dean says, we don't take owls till 5th year. Maybe not Thomas, but believe me, you need all the preparation you can get. Miss Granger remains the only person in this class who has managed to turn a hedgehog into a satisfactory pincushion. I might remind you that your pincushion, Thomas, still curls up in fright if anyone approaches it with a pin. I like that. High level of snark. And then not 4 pages later, when they're all kind of, the whole building's freaking out about everybody showing up, right? And like first of all, we didn't even talk about the fact that like all of the suits of armor have been polished and like everything's looking all fancy, right? Mm-hmm. Company's coming. Why not make the house look presentable? And it says, other members of the staff seem oddly tense too. Longbottom, kindly do not reveal that you can't even perform a simple switching spell in front of anyone from Durmstrang, Professor McGonagall barked at the end of one particularly difficult lesson, during which Neville had accidentally transplanted his own ears onto a cactus.
Good stuff.
I can feel her teacher frustration, and I appreciate how it comes out in snark. Maybe not the best teaching strategy, but funny for me. And that leaves us for the evening. So we're going to go to bed now. You can go to bed or work or whatever it is that you're doing after you listen to this. So like if you're going to work, probably not going to bed is the best option for you.
Unless you work at a napping company, which sounds amazing.
Okay, in which case, good job.
You made it. You have a great job.
Keep up the good work. You have the best job. Jealous. While you're doing your job or other such things that you do to spend your time between Sundays when we join you, you can find us on social media at Not Named Podcast on Twitter. Send us any of your digital owls at notnamedpodcast@gmail.com or the podcast that at gmail.com, either one. You can find us online at thepodcastthat.com where you can find this show and all of our shows along with our support us page with a plethora of ways that you can support us, including our Patreon account. If you join our Imaginary Legion on Patreon at a variety of levels, you get access to our unrestricted sections, which are now exclusively for our Patreon listeners. So if you miss our unrestricted sections and the fact that we have special guests every single time now joining us with all of our Lockhart signed released items on those days, join us there on patreon.com/stayimaginary.
If you haven't subscribed and rated our show on iTunes, we would really, really appreciate it if you would do that. It helps other folks like you find us. Also, check out this show and all of our shows on Radio Public. Download their free Android or iOS app. When you use their free app and listen to our show, everyone benefits.
Join us next week on our 5-chap recap episode, along with our special guest recapper, Terrence from Hogwarts Radio. We will have our first-time reader, Riley, joining us, along with our target audience perspective listener reader, Lorelai. We will all be there for us. That'll be next week. And then in 2 weeks, we'll be back with chapter number 16.
The Goblet of Fire. Stay imaginary.
Thanks.